What's going on, guys? Welcome back to episode 3 of my Building the Bag series. In this episode, I'm talking about mid-ranges. So let's look at the flight and then jump right into it. Like I've said in previous videos, I'm basically trying to find a disc to fit every shot shape and distance in my bag. It's going to be kind of the same with mid-ranges, however, with how far puddles kind of go, I don't really feel like I need as many mids in my bag. I can kind of go right from a puddle to a fairway, but there are all some spots where I do need a mid to kind of fill that gap, and that's what I'm going to talk about here. So for that super oval stable slot, I threw a Malta and a Buzz OS, and the main difference between these is the size of them. So a Malta is actually a small diameter mid, so it feels like a puddle in my hand, which I really like. And the Buzz OS is a wide diameter, so it's a more common kind of size for a mid-range. So for those reasons, I like the Malta a lot more for backhand. They have a very similar flight shape, so I'll probably go with the Malta for my bag. The one positive about the Buzz OS is that it's actually really comfortable for sidearm, so it can definitely fill a slot for that. But with zones, I feel like I don't really need that in my bag, so most likely gonna have Maltas in my bag throughout the whole season. So next up, I threw a Wasp, and I really like the flight of this disc. It has a nice oval stable, just dependable, consistent flight, but the thing I don't like about it is the size of it. This is even bigger than that Buzz OS I was talking about, or normal Buzz. It's really wide and just kind of uncomfortable for my hand. I'm used to throwing puddles and fairways and drivers a lot, and those have a small diameter, so just the inconsistency from those discs to the size of the Wasp is what I don't like. But the flight is great, and a lot of people do not mind or kind of like the size of it. So definitely not a bad disc, just not for me. Great flight. Next up, I threw a Buzz. This is the most popular disc in disc golf. Kind of for good reason. It's got a really good, just straight, dependable flight. Super consistent disc. I don't love the size of it. It's the same thing as most of these other mid-ranges, where it's kind of bigger. But it has a really nice flight, and I do love that, so I will be bagging a Buzz for the time being. Maybe once I beat Maltas in to where they'll flip enough to where they kind of fly like a Buzz, then maybe the Buzz will get knocked out, but for right now, gotta have a Buzz in the bag. I do love the flight of it. So next up, I threw a Meteor, and this is one of the discs that kind of pleasantly surprised me the most in the Discraft lineup. This thing is awesome. Obviously, you guys saw the flight. Super straight, one of the straightest flying discs I've ever thrown, and so much distance potential for being a 5-speed. This thing is sick. It's also not as big as at least in my opinion, it doesn't feel as big as a Buzz or a Wasp. It's a pretty comfortable feeling disc, not maybe quite as small as a puddle, but still pretty comfortable, and obviously the flight's amazing, so definitely making my bag. Next up, I threw a Buzz SS, and this thing has a pretty similar flight to that Meteor. I threw this one pretty badly in the video, kind of yanked it over. but it's not quite as comfortable in my hand as the Meteor, and for that reason, I'll probably bag the Meteor and not the Buzz SS. Still a really good flight though, just not quite as comfortable. Then last up, I threw a Soul, and this thing is sick. So I think this is a small diameter, so this feels really close to a puddle in my hand, and it has a really nice, just consistently understable flight. I could definitely see bagging this disc. I don't think it's gonna go in my bag right now, but I could definitely see this being a useful shot shape on certain courses to where I might want to put this in my bag. Super, just understable, man, and that's obviously a useful shot. If you guys have not tried a Soul yet, I would definitely recommend one. Really comfortable, really nice flight. Obviously, just holds that ante the whole way. So yeah, definitely has potential to make my bag, but for right now, probably not quite. Not sure if zones count as mid-ranges or puddles, but since I only had 7 mids, I figured I'd throw these in with them and then save some more room for puddles in the final episode of the Building the Bag series. So the first zone that I threw was Jawbreaker. This is the zone that I feel like is going to be really good when I don't want the disc to skip away. I think since it's a little bit softer, it's a little bit grippier, it'll kind of just hit the ground and stop. And it's also not quite as overstable as some of the other zones as well. So this is making the bag. I really like this Jawbreaker zone. Next up, I threw an ESP zone, and I really like the feel of this too. Obviously, zone's one of my favorite discs, so any plastic it comes in is pretty much going to be good. But this is one of my favorite plastics. Obviously, nice and durable, nice and consistently overstable, and a really good feel in the hand, and the grip of it is really good as well. This is going to skip some too, so definitely have to factor that in, but definitely making the bag. Then I threw a Z zone, and I actually bagged 2 Z zones before I got sponsored by Discraft. So I obviously like this disc, but after trying the ESP and some of these other zones, I kind of realized that I don't like the Z quite as much. So obviously still a super nice flight, but just not as comfortable in my hand as some of the other plastics. So probably will not be using a Z zone anytime soon. Last up for zones, I threw a Get Freaky Crystal Flex. Shout out to Brody Smith. This is my favorite zone plastic, I think. It's a little bit more gummy, which I actually like. I feel like it gives me a more consistent, clean release, which is obviously super kind of sought after with forehands. You want it to come out nice and clean, so it's a nice, consistent flight. This is also the most overstable version of the zone that I found, and definitely going to be something I lean on. So Crystal Flex, definitely making the bag. Last up, I threw a Ringer, and this disc is like an understable zone, kind of a straight zone. Not quite as comfortable in my hand. Doesn't come out very clean for me. That's probably just my problem. But obviously, this has a really good flight if you can get it to come out nice and smooth. I know, like Paul Ulibarri throws this, and he can do some crazy things with it. So definitely look forward to maybe trying this disc out more and getting it to where I can release it clean and actually have like an understable zone, basically, is what it could be. So definitely has potential to make the bag, but definitely not going to make it quite yet. All right, so that is my mid-ranges and zones. Obviously, a lot of you guys know that mids are kind of my least favorite class of disc. With how far puddles go, I feel like, you know, the gap between puddles and fairways is tighter than ever before, and I don't need as many mids. But I do need some, and I was able to find some that I actually really like. The Malta is amazing, the Meteor is fantastic, the Buzz is solid, and then obviously the zones are really good. So definitely liking the way my bag is starting to get filled out. I'm really confident with kind of all the discs in each slot so far. So definitely stay tuned for episode 4 of my Building the Bag series, where I do throwing puddles. That should be a fun one. Hopefully I can make it somewhat soon, but the season is starting up, and I'm not sure how much focus I'll be able to put onto YouTube. Probably going to be trying to compete mostly. Obviously, I do plan on making videos still, hopefully consistently, hopefully at least maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks at the very least. But yeah, that is episode 3. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.